Hello, everyone. I'm Ellie from Nourishment Redacted. Welcome to Lioness Lifestyle Live. This is a show where we honor a keto, carnivore, or meat-based woman. They share their experience, their healing journey to inspire and bring our community together.
And I am Cristie from Meeting Wellness. And as usual, it is nice to meet with all of you this evening. And we've all been inspired by someone's story. So we believe that sharing stories is one of the very best ways to help people who are sick and without hope.
And I'm Adrian. Some people call me BiggestLoserCarnivore. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We want this to be a place where we lift each other up and show healing through diet is possible and helpful. Please get your questions ready for our amazing guest tonight. Put a QQQ or a question in front so we can be sure to get it answered.
And now it's time for one of my favorite parts of the show, and that would be our Roar of the Week. This week's Roar of the Week comes from Nia at Nia's Way, a great friend of the show, also a former guest of our show. And she said, Replay Club this week. This was a fantastic episode. Loved hearing the updates from all the lionesses. Aw, thanks, Nia. And Megan's story was so inspiring. I wouldn't be sad if you did longer episodes. Ha ha, it went by fast. So that is awesome. Every single week, we love to shout out an awesome comment that we get. So after the show is over, please drop a comment below and we will hunt through those and choose one to shout out on next week's show.
Perfect. So without further ado, let's give a big roar welcome to our guest for tonight.
Hello.
Thanks so much for being on the show. Could you share with us who you are, your health journey, and why you eat a carnivore animal-based diet? Love to get to know you.
Yes, I'm excited to be here. So thank you. And yes, my name's Ayana and at Pilar Fit Vegas. And honestly, I came to this lifestyle because my coach at the time persuaded me to do it because I thought it sounded crazy at first. But let me go back, like way back. And the reason why I've always been drawn to a more low carb way of eating, even though I didn't have the terminology back when I was younger, I didn't connect it. I just always felt better. I tend to retain water a lot and I would get bloated easily. So I just naturally like pushed aside food, right? That made me feel that way. But actually, even before that, I was obese for the first time in my life when I was 9. Okay. So actually I should have rewinded back a little bit before then. And I don't know why there was such an influx of my weight at like 9 and 10 years old. I did start my cycle early, but I got so big. I weighed not much lower than I weigh now as a full grown adult at 9 and 10 years old. But I lost it before I went to middle school because I was like, I don't want to go into middle school feeling this way. And so my mom, who was a diabetic, put me on her diabetic diet. So I was exposed to, counting calories at a very young age. I kept my weight off. And when I was a teenager, around 16, 17, I found the gym. I took a class in high school, a weightlifting class, and I loved it. And then my brother and uncles were all bodybuilders and powerlifters. So I just fell in love with that bodybuilding lifestyle. And I learned at that young age, protein is important. So I remember making sure I ate a lot of protein, even at that young age. And it was a helpful way for me to keep my weight down. But after I got married, I became a teacher and I right away got my master's. And just the newness of everything all at once, I slowly started putting weight on and didn't really go to the gym and ate late when my husband got home late from work. So by the end of my 20s, I reached my all-time high. And that's when I was fed up and I did the HCG diet. Don't recommend that, but I did that. and I lost the weight. But what saved me again was bodybuilding. That's when I started really going to the gym again consistently. And I started competing in bodybuilding shows for the first half of my 30s. And even when I was done, I kept up the lifestyle. The second and last time I let things slide was when I turned 40. And that's when I started, I went back to school to get another master's. And my habits just were not, was not keeping up with everything. So from 2018 to 2019, I put on the weight all over again. I'm only 5'5". I got to 188 for the second time as an adult. So this time I did it responsibly. I didn't do HCG or any quick thing. I just stuck to what I knew worked. High protein for me, moderate fat, low carb. I had a coach. And I lost the weight slowly. It took me over a year to lose 50 pounds. But in that last stretch, my coach, Scott Kramer, he's the one who recommended carnivore. He's like, why don't you just do carnivore? Because he had done the Lion diet. He goes, and it'll shed off the rest of the weight and it might make you feel better. And I thought it was crazy. I'm like, meat only. But I did it and I loved it. And I stuck with it for quite some time after that. But I've kept my weight off since then. And I just feel the best with digestion, with carnivore. And I really understood that I had a dependence on sugar and starch more than I really thought I did. I did not realize it at all. And my behavior mimicked a lot of addicts that you would see with alcohol and when whatever. And I'm like, oh my goodness, why am I reacting the same way? So that was eye-opening. But I've kind of transitioned to animal-based now because I do tolerate certain foods very well. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell.
Wow, that's a great story. I'm very familiar with the up again, down again weight loss cycles, so that's the part of your story that kind of resonates with me the most. However, you started younger than I did. So 9 years old is just like, wow. And you talked about your mom put you on her diabetic diet. I wanted to hear more about that. What was the advice like? Where did she get this diabetic diet? What did that look like? Because I know today they're like, oh, just eat the carbs and cover them with insulin. It's kind of what my diabetic friends today, that's kind of the advice that they're following.
Exactly. Yeah. She knew I was frustrated. And she also was concerned about my weight gain. And, she didn't want me to follow in her footsteps because she had some of the same addictive behaviors. I think that's where I learned it from. But anyways, what did it look like? Honestly, it looked like the food pyramid. So I followed it to the T because I just was like determined. I can be competitive. So my friend, who was also very overweight at the time, lost weight before me. And I was like, oh no. So it was motivation, but it was literally like the pyramid. And I remember at that age, I counted my calories because the book that her doctor gave her had all of the food equivalents in there and what you should have every day, 5 to 7 servings of starch and 2 fruit. And you guys know what it is, the veggies and a little meat. And so I tracked that. I remember at a very young age, I remember having 1,200 calories because I remember adding it up. And yeah, and I would weigh myself every week, once a week. And I just tracked it every single week and got down to what I wanted. And yeah, I didn't exercise. I was just a normal kid, but it was the food. So yeah, that's what I did. And I just remember that it was even after that, even though I kept it off because motivation or reward when you're in middle school and high school, there is you want to look presentable and feel good about yourself. And then later on, I got into dance before the weightlifting. So, that all made it easy to stick to. And it just went a little wayward after I got married and very happy and comfortable. So I had to reel it back in after I let it go that, as an adult. So
Could you tell us a little bit more about the HCG diet? That is one I've never tried. I've tried a lot of things. That is
Really?
not one. And then can you tell us why do you think it ultimately didn't work compared to what you're doing today?
Okay. Okay. So to answer that first question now, I'm more aware now. But HCG. So I did have a stint in my 20s where I lost weight with Atkins. And so I always knew that low carb was good for me, but I didn't stick to it. So that's what led to gaining the weight, and eventually friends that I know around town, you know, were doing this HCG, like everybody that I knew. And a older gentleman, a friend of the family was on it because he suffered from, you know, obesity, was on it. And he talked to my husband and I was like, you know, I want to try it. You know, I'm frustrated. And I did. So it was a shot of HCG. It supposedly like resets your hypothalamus. So I don't know. Anyways, and it was a shot every single day. But here's the thing. You're eating 500 calories a day. So there's a loading phase. So like, I think it was like 2 or 3 days before you start the shots. Or I think you start the shots while you're loading. You just eat whatever you want. Basically, you're binging for 2 or 3 days. Then you go down to the 500 calories. So in men, 800 calories. So, I mean, thinking back, I'm like, oh my goodness. But so I would have coffee in the morning, maybe an apple, right? Then for lunch and dinner, it had to be a protein. And I think that was it. A protein and maybe a little veg, but I honestly think it was just protein for lunch and dinner. And like maybe one apple. That's what I remember. And that was it. And so, yeah, I lost weight. Now, here's the thing. I did keep it off. Why? Because when I lost the weight, I was doing research because I'm a little nerd. So I was doing a lot of research, and I noticed that the maintenance diet portion that they suggest was a very low carb diet. And so I was reading and I was like, okay, so I transitioned into my own version of a low carb diet. And because of doing Atkins before, I already had memory of what that looked like. And then because I was hitting the gym when I was done with, I did 2 cycles of it. When I was done, I was like, okay, let me work out because I feel flabby. I was approached to do shows. They're like, you're in here all the time. Why don't you start competing? And so then, of course, the bodybuilder diet, which was high protein, you know, kind of similar to what I was doing. And that's why I said bodybuilding saved me, because I was able to kind of reverse diet, even though I didn't know what that meant at that time, and work out and really preserve the muscle that I had. And I was okay, but a lot of people aren't okay after doing that.
Oh, that's fantastic. I always find it so interesting when people do bodybuilding. There's a lot that goes into it. I know it's not like you just eat a certain way and you work out. There's a lot of mindset that goes into it. Could you share a little bit about your bodybuilding experience?
Yes, I love it, and I'm still attached to it now, and in the industry, so to speak. But it was the only thing that really taught me discipline. You know, we're educated, you know, post-grad degrees, whatever, but nothing taught me discipline like bodybuilding, because it is the toughest sport out there to do. Because number one, yes, you have to perform to gain the muscle. But mentally it's so taxing because you do have to follow the diet to the T and, you know, execute. So you're training hard, especially like during an improvement season or off season, you're in a slight surplus and of calories. And when it's time to cut, right, to prep for the show, which is usually 12, 16, 20 weeks. So you're talking 3, 4, or 5 months. It's not, you know, something quick. Why? Because as you're losing fat, you have to preserve as much muscle as you possibly can. So losing quick is a no-go, because you're going to lose muscle that you've earned or that you've worked so hard earning. So, it's that mindset of sticking to your diet, being disciplined. When I was competing and working full-time as a teacher, I would get up at, my schedule is kind of similar even now, but I would get up at that time, 4:30, do my fasted cardio, work. And then after work, I would go train. And as you get closer to the competition, you are probably doing cardio after training as well. It just depends on how healthy you were when you started the prep. So it was a full-time job, it really was. Now, when I entered my prep a little bit healthier, and what I mean by that is I didn't ruin my off season. I didn't go crazy and eat too much and gain too much weight, right? I kind of stayed in relative 10, 15 pounds of stage weight. If I started good, then I wouldn't have to do as much cardio and the prep wouldn't be as long. And you learn those things as you compete more. And I didn't even mention you're practicing posing, because posing is everything. Presentation is everything. So it's a lot, but I loved it. And I still live the lifestyle. I'm starting a cut now because I've been maintaining for the whole year, really. So now I want to actually get into a cut right now for myself to be ready in May or June, not to compete, but just to feel summer ready.
Okay, that's fantastic. I'm hoping someone else will ask you about that. If not, I'll ask when I ask my next question. But you said something earlier about addictive behavior around food and how to you it kind of even looked like alcoholic type behavior. I know for me, I for sure was addicted. And for me, what that looked like was the junk food would call my name, whether it was sweet or salty, from the kitchen. And I would go in there and just eat it until I was so sick that I was like, I'm never going to eat this again. And then 24 hours later, I'm stuffing my face again. And then when the scale would start to go up, then it would be total restriction, I know what you mean by 500 calories a day, because I have done that, not on the diet you're talking about, but just out of sheer restriction, forcing myself, just living life hungry. And then just kind of going through cycles that looked like that. But I wanted to ask you about your addictive behavior. When you say that, what do you mean? What did that look like for you a little bit more specifically?
Yeah, it's so funny how I didn't have words for a lot of what I know now when I was younger. So in my 20s is when I can think back to when it first really started for me. Actually, no, I was younger because like I said, my first diet was when I was 10 years old. So I remember even younger, even though I kept my weight off, there would be times when donuts were in the house, and that's my drug of choice. And I would eat the entire dozen, and they would be like, what's going on? Where'd the donuts go? It would just shove. And so now I graduated to more. So in my 20s, it became more, because I wasn't as secretive when I was younger. When I got older, I was more secretive with it. So in my 20s, later 20s, I think when I was really getting to my highest weight, because I felt frustrated and I was like, what am I going to do? Oh, I'm going to start my diet tomorrow. The all or nothing mentality really puts me in the ditch. So for me, it was like, okay, well, I'm going to start my diet tomorrow. So I'm going to eat whatever I want. And it would be secretive. It was when I was nowhere, no one was around me. And then I would just start the next day. And I never did until I finally did something about it. And I would have to say after, a little bit during, but more after I competed, it graduated to more of a bulimia type. So it ended up being I never threw up. I can't really. So it was never that, but I would do laxatives, or I would just not eat the next day, or I would maybe over exercise So it was those behaviors, which technically is more bulimic. And so that was more in my 30s. And so I would have to say I have not binged like that in a couple of years, and I'm happy, because even after I lost weight and for good and been maintaining, I still had those episodes, not of the purging part, but of like, oh my gosh, I get caught in the all or nothing. And to me, for me, all or nothing mentality is dangerous. So I try not to have that all or nothing mentality, because that's when I mess up. Yeah.
So what did you do to heal it? Because what I tried for the past year was I kept restricting things that I felt triggering, but it would just move. So I'd go carnivore. Well, now I want to eat all the cheese. So I'd cut the dairy, and then it would move to the dehydrated meat. So I cut the dehydrated meat, and it moved to this, and moved to that. Finally, I went down to Lion Diet, and I found myself gnawing on short ribs all day. And I realized, okay, more work is needed. This restriction is actually making it worse. What did you find that worked for you to help you get into that healthy mindset where you can just live peacefully?
Yes. And it's work. And you know what? It doesn't, I don't think the work ends. Hopefully it will. But right now I'm still, in work, a work in process. But what I know has helped me, and it's helped me in the past, but I just didn't make connections to it. But number one, stopping with the all or nothing mentality. So for me, that is, oh, I can't have this, I can't have that. When I start thinking like that, that's when I am like, oh, well, let me just have one last bite, or let me just have one more before I don't ever have it again. That is what really messes me up. And I just can't think like that. I just can't. And so I've really come to realize that that kind of thinking is bad for me. Now, some people would be like, well, why would you ever do carnivore? Well, when I was first introduced, it was, novelty. It was new, and I liked the way I felt. So, no big deal. Now, times where I have gone back to do it, to reset, or, whatever, find something out about myself, I started thinking with that all or nothing, and it sabotaged the process. So now if I want to do a reset with carnivore, I look at it as, okay, I'm going to do this, and I want to, and I'm going to have a variety of meat and cheese if I need to, and I'm going to enjoy it. If I mess up and have a little bit of this or that, big deal. The carnivore police is not going to come for me. Who cares? So it's just, for me, it's my mindset and how I approach things. I can't have that box way of thinking. And also, to me, exercise has just, if I have a day where I'm like, oh, I overate, I really overshot today. Guess what? I am going to have a massive leg and glute day the next day and put it to good use and get right back on track. Like, you know what I mean? So again, that kind of falls into not having an all or nothing mentality. Like, all right, well, put it to good use. You overate, big deal. Go, go hit the weights. So that's how I see it, right? Not that exercise is going to cancel it out, but, use it as the fuel that it is, and, go at it at the gym, not to cancel it out. So again, it goes back to mindset. I journal. That's how I have to process my thoughts. So really nothing that fancy, but that's what helps me. So.
That's so great. I think that I really resonate with you when it comes to like that, the binging, because I also was, I used to be 240 pounds, and I just constantly, and I'm an emotional eater, a volume eater. And I just constantly kept going to the fridge. The fridge was my safe haven. The fridge was my lighthouse. And I just kept going to it. And I found that when I started eating the carnivore diet, first keto, then the carnivore diet, I felt that the food noise went away. And I love that, you talk a lot about the mindset of it, because we can all get a little dogmatic at times. You know, we're in our little clamshell and we're like, you know, if we mess up and it's like the end of the world. So I was wondering, looking back at your 9-year-old self, what would you say to her that would help her with her self-esteem and how she would feel about her body image, and maybe just some advice to your younger self, or maybe even some of the students that you watch, because I know you're a teacher. So
Yeah. Yes. So, I guess number one, like, you are enough. You're going to make mistakes. One mistake is not going to be the end of the story, right? So, if you aim for something and, it doesn't go your way, or you think that, oh, I messed up or whatever, then you can always look at it and learn from it, right? So mentally, I would emotionally and mentally tell my younger self that, because I'm not a perfectionist, but I realized when I was younger, I did have more of those tendencies than I do now. Like I wanted to, maybe it was more I wanted to be accepted, or I wanted to be acknowledged for, hey, this is what I've done, so that acknowledgement. So I would tell her that, like, hey, if something doesn't go your way, or the way you think, or you don't feel like you've just done your best, it's okay. What can you do better next time? Or if not, then you're fine. So the physical part, I would, oh man, see, that would include my mom, and I can't control what my mom or dad did or did not do. So I would just say, girl, get and stay active, right? Exercise and movement has always been a part of my life, but really keeping that in the forefront, because for young girls, I think it's good to have a focus on maybe more performance goals and being active than, what does the scale say, or what size are you fitting in? So I think having like a performance, goal is way better for a young woman.
I think you need to come and teach my PE class. Can you just come tell my students that for a minute?
Yes,
they have no interest in achieving their performance goals in terms of the California physical fitness test, the mile run, the push-ups, the sit-ups. I need some help.
I know,
Okay.
it's sad. No,
Yeah.
like I'm telling you, I was listening to Dr. Lemke, or something like that. She's an addiction specialist. Anyways, and that's what she was talking about with young children, the screens and the video games, and just exposure to all that sugar too. But still, all of that, they're getting exposed way more than we were at a young age right now. And it's scary. I'm like, oh my goodness. Do you guys like look at each other when you're talking? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's horrible.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
you mentioned right before was it HCG diet, you said you did try some Atkins / low carb, and you knew that was good, but you couldn't stick to it. I found that
Yeah.
interesting. The same thing happened to me, but for me, I think it was because I didn't really know what the heck I was doing. Like, I never read the book. Everyone was just like Atkins, and I was like, okay, so like I'll eat some meat and cheese and drink an Atkins shake, like a store bought. I didn't really know the correct way to do it because I never taught myself. And so that's why I never stuck to it, because I didn't understand the theory behind it.
Yep.
Really. And then eventually I would just fell off. So for you, why was it so hard to stick to versus like what you're doing now, which you're clearly, sticking to and doing really well with?
Honestly, it comes back to awareness, because I like I said, I'm a self-proclaimed nerd. I read the book, and I was part of Low Carb Friends forum group that the now incarcerated guy was in charge of. And Kelly Hogan was a part of that group, but then her and Lisa branched off to the all meat people. That's the first time I heard about all meat. They didn't call it carnivore back then. I was like, they're weird. So I stayed with Low Carb Friends. So I was getting a lot of knowledge. I knew what to do. and I knew how to do it. And I even tried climbing up the carb ladder. These are two things I did not know. And the reason why I don't think it worked for me, number one, and the first one is going to be very controversial in the carnivore community. I had no idea about calories at that time. I counted calories when I was younger and I was aware of it, but I fell into the mentality, even back then, this was the mid 2000s. I fell into the mentality of like, oh, on this diet, you don't have to worry about calories. You just have to worry about your carb count. And so I because I was listening to everybody, I was like, okay, well, I don't have to worry. That's all I have to count. And I'm a volume eater, right? So that didn't work. And it worked a little bit, but after a while it stops because you have to account for other things too. You know what I mean? If you're eating too much fat, it's going to like counteract the carbs that you're not eating and whatever. Number two, and this I think is probably a bigger reason, is the addiction. I wasn't aware that I didn't have a word with it, and the addiction, because guess what? And this is why sometimes I still go back to a carnivore reset, because I have to check myself. Because on that, I was making sugar-free this, sugar-free that. I found recipes and I was very crafty. So that is another reason too. So those two things really made it so that the weight I did lose, I stalled and then I gave up.
I went on that Atkins in college too. And I found like it became like this hated thing really quickly, where people were demonizing it like really quickly. And that makes you not want to do it too. And then there just weren't as many tools in the toolbox and support as there is today with like carnivore.
Yes.
With it being demonized and then the lack of tools. I'd like to ask you, I want to go into this training thing. I find, I don't know if manipulating your body is the right word, altering, improving your physique like that. I find that so intriguing because I've never been able to do it. I've never been able to get rid of the flab in my life. I've always had a high fat percentage. I find this just so interesting. I recently met Ryan Lochte. Do you know who that is?
Oh yeah, that sounds familiar. Ryan Lochte.
He's an Olympic swimmer. And he had a TV show. What would Ryan Lochte do? He was like a heartthrob, like, oh.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay.
He came to our town and he taught our kids, because my daughter's on a really good swim team. Like it was a swim clinic. And he said that it was really important after training to eat. Did you eat after training to fuel your muscle? And what would you eat in that case?
Oh, yeah. For sure. I mean, always. So not after I do cardio. It's pointless. I mean, if you're not hungry after you do cardio, then you don't need to eat it. Now that kind of Olympic training swimmer would probably have to, because they're burning way more calories. What I do, I don't have to. But after a lift, oh my gosh, like seriously, yes. Now here's the thing. Does it have to be immediately after I train? No, but I like to eat something. I'd like to repair what I've broken down with a good amount of protein, at least within an hour, 2 hour window. Some people are like, right after they down their protein shake, where I'm not like that. And I've gotten more educated with that too. But if it's within a few hours after, the rule used to be no longer than an hour after training. With research that has come out lately, I think that, it doesn't have to be that hard, fast rule. But before I entered this carnivore keto space in 2021, I never went past an hour after I had a hard lift. Yeah. Protein always.
Did you take any supplements like creatine and dry powdering, or what is it? Dry scooping?
Dry scooping. Yeah. I still take creatine. But yes, what's so funny though? Did I take it back then? So ironically, when I competed, because that part, I didn't have that knowledge and my coach didn't have me take it, interestingly. But anyways, no, I did not take creatine. But I was on I had my diet, which was, I remember to this day what it was, because it was like embedded in my brain. So it was like 160 grams of protein, 100 grams of carbs, and like 50 or 55 grams of fat. And it would get lower like a few weeks before comp if it needed to. And but glutamine after a workout is very important. I still do that. And I do take creatine now. And then what is the other major one? Oh, digestive enzymes and prebiotics, vitamin C, vitamin D, magnesium, things like that. But I would have to say the hard hitter was glutamine and protein after my workout. That was a big one. Because
Can you just explain, do I need to take creatine before? Like, what's the point in the glutamine after? Because I really want it. My next phase finally in life isn't like about weight loss. It's about like, I want to get strong.
You know what? And honestly, like, I'm trying to pull up mine that I use. But anyways, I think that for women, we have to work out. We have to train. I'm sorry. Like you don't have to go into the gym if you don't want to. But get some weights, get some resistance bands, something, so that you can create that resistance and build that muscle. But now, okay, so digestion, yeah, that's what it was for. It was mostly for muscle repair, the glutamine, and digestion. That was what I was missing. So with my diet back then, I've always, this is why I liked carnivore, because my digestion wasn't always the best. So the glutamine does help with muscle recovery, but it also helps with digestive health as well. So pairing that with the protein after I worked out was beneficial for me. I still take glutamine, like I said. Creatine. Now, creatine does help in building muscle. Now, as carnivores, we have enough protein. At least if you're getting 30% protein, if you're doing the high fat carnivore version where it's like 20%, it might not be enough protein for muscle building. Well, it's not. It's not. But if you're getting at least 30% protein, it's going to be good for muscle building. So you might not need the creatine. I personally take the creatine because it also has cognitive benefits as well. And that is why I keep taking creatine, because I've been reading so much about how it does help with cognitive as well as muscle building. So that's why I still take it, even though I eat enough protein.
That's so funny. My husband, he's been going to the gym a lot and feeling great. He go to the gym, he's doing judo, and he's been taking creatine. So I'm like, I know what that is. I know what that is now. That's so, thank you for defining all of that. That's great. You mentioned that your digestion improved on carnivore. What were some other unexpected benefits for switching?
Yeah. So the digestion was number one, because I'm like, wow, I'm not bloated. Like that was, a big one because I just thought that was normal. Like I really did. I just thought it was normal. So that was like the biggest one. And this is something you said that I forgot to mention, Ellie, was the food noise. And so when I did go carnivore, even ketovore, because I kind of was, when I first started, I did carnivore, then I would go into ketovore and back and whatever. So the food noise was gone. So for me, the benefits are more, yes, digestion, but it was definitely cognitive. I was like alert and I didn't need as much sleep. And it was also, the food noise was very, very limited. So I'm my own worst enemy. If food noise comes back, it's because of what I've done. Right. So I still have to say no to keto treats a lot of times, things like that. It's just, and that saying no to that doesn't give me the all or nothing mentality. You know what I mean? Because I know it's not good for me. It results into this behavior. So I'm okay with that. And it's ironic. I think it's because of the flour. I feel like I have more of an issue with flour-based things than sugar, or it's at least equal, because everything that I have a weakness to, donuts and croissants and, you know, all the breads, you know, all the cakes and cookies, it's that mix. If you gave me a piece of chocolate, I could eat a piece of chocolate, honestly, even if it's not dark, and I would be okay. I could literally have one and be good and not have another one till tomorrow. You know what I mean? So I think it's that combination for me, big time.
Yeah, that last like little paragraph that you just said, it reminds me so much of our guest last week, talking about like your own personal, like the things that personally are going to send you and make that food noise grow back in your head. So I was like right there with you until you said the chocolate thing. I'm like, nope, if I had chocolate, I would be eating like 6 bars or whatever it was. A whole bag.
I know. And listen,
I don't have that.
Yes, I know. And you know what? Listen, I know myself. And if it was in the house, it would be a problem. I guess in my brain, I'm thinking like at work, at a school, there's just junk everywhere. It's like ridiculous.
Yep.
Just for whatever, there's food celebration. Anyways, so if I walk past and I grabbed like a Hershey's little mini thing, like I would be okay. But I would not have it in the house. So I know my boundaries.
Yeah. Okay, well, one of our viewers has a question for you. So this comes from Josephine. She wants to know, do you cool down, like meaning getting in with like fans or air conditioning after working out, or do you cool down naturally?
Oh, interesting. Okay. I cool down naturally. I do. I mean, I guess, well, it's winter in Vegas, although it's, you know, our highs are still like in the mid 50s, you know, so, but, yeah, I cool down eventually. Yeah, it's not right away. And, but I don't have to do something to make myself cool down. I'll just let it happen naturally, you know, and it also depends on what I'm doing. Sometimes, like if I'm doing upper body, you know, I don't really have to worry about that. Legs, it's usually cardio. If I'm doing intense cardio, it'll be a cool down process that might last a little bit longer. So, yeah. Yes. So.
Okay. So when you're working out, are you working out like 5 days a week, or do you give yourself recovery time?
Yeah. So, for me, having 5 days that would be including recovery, because that's 2 days that I wouldn't be working out. So for me, that's recovery. So it depends on, you know, you can have any kind of program. You know, there's been phases in my life where I have just done 3 days of lifting, but they've been like 3 full body days, spaced out Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. And the other days in between, I'll like make sure I get my steps or I do cardio. Those have been busier times in my life. But on a normal, regular basis, I work out 5 days a week, and sometimes 4 if something comes up. So, and that is because there's a reason. I have parts of my body that I want to develop, and so I spend more time on that. So like for instance, Monday I'll hit glutes heavy. And then the next day I'll do back and biceps. And then the next day I'll hit quads and glutes. And then after that, the next day I'll do shoulders and triceps. And then at the end of the week, I'll hit hamstrings, the back of the leg, and glutes. So notice glutes, because for women, you know, that for me at least, some women are more androgenic and they you know, build their legs come in really lean, and you know, they're very muscled, and so their area in this midsection is more, they carry more fat there. I carry more fat in my posterior, so my back but my back gets lean quicker than my glutes and my hamstrings. So my glutes hold a lot of fat. So I'm always working on building more muscle in those areas so that it creates a better shape. Now, if you're just, hey, I just want to work out and look good, then heck, you can do 2 days a week full body and be fine, as long as you're progressively overloading. So, basically quoting Greg Doucette, did you go harder than last time? So if you're intensifying it each time, progressive overload could be a heavier weight, not by a lot, but just making those gains. It could be more reps and sets, or you can have intensifiers like putting a band around your knees while you're doing a glute bridge, or to create a resistance, pausing at the top of a movement. It's just, there's so many different things that you can do to intensify and make it and give yourself that progression. Going to failure, not every single set you do, but maybe the last set you do, try to go to failure as long as you're being safe. So things like that, that's what matters. I have my own program, but you can make some serious gains twice a week, full body workout.
That's so inspiring. I am someone who does not work out a lot just because I have a lot of knee injuries, but I wanted to, but obviously you look incredible. I want to share some of these before and after pictures because I forgot they were on here and we have to celebrate you. So,
cool.
So here is,
oh yeah.
Check her out.
Yes,
come on, girls, chime in.
that was 188 versus like 135. Incredible. Yeah.
I see Cristie's heart. Very good. And then we have this one.
And how tall are you?
I'm 5'5". Okay. Yeah, 5'5".
You look a lot taller than that.
I know everybody thinks I'm taller. I'm not. Just 5'5".
Yeah, you have a nice vertical line.
Yeah.
I would so obviously it's taken a lot of work and your ethic I can't talk today. It took a lot of effort for you to change your mind, change your body. And so we can think of it in the psychological aspect, but I was wondering if we can take into the practical side of things. So what was a typical day of eating for you?
Yeah. You have to really embrace monotony. You have to really just be okay with just doing the same thing day in, day out, but being happy about the delayed gratification of it and the progression and making those daily wins. But so a typical day of eating when I competed or now? Or both?
Why not both?
Okay.
Whatever you would like to share with us, you think would be helpful.
It's funny. I should do the both. So you guys, because it was a bodybuilder diet. So I would wake up, do cardio, I'd come back, I'd have black coffee just with sweetener in it. No cream. I couldn't have dairy. And I would have oatmeal with protein powder in it, or the other choice was 1 egg and 4 egg whites with oatmeal on the side, or sweet potato on the side, like 4 ounces of sweet potato cooked, or a half a cup of dry oatmeal would cook up to a cup, right? That was first meal. And then the second meal was whatever lean meat, lean chicken, turkey, beef, white fish. And I forgot how many nuts or almonds, like half an ounce, right? And I could add veggies to that if I wanted. That would be meal 2 and 4. Meal 3 would be also whatever lean meat, chicken, turkey, lean beef, or fish, with a half a cup of cooked rice, or 4 ounces of sweet potato, or 1 corn tortilla, and veggies. And then dinner would be lean meat. Twice a week, it could be fatty meat. like salmon or steak just twice a week, and like 3 ounces instead of the 4. But normally it was 4 ounces of lean meat and veggies with a tablespoon of oil. And then last meal would be 6 egg whites. Yeah, so that's what it was. And I would get creative though. I would get creative. But anyways, that's what it was. So now, honestly, oh boy, now at an animal-based lifestyle, like varying anywhere from keto, ketovore, keto to animal-based, literally, I wake up and after I'm only doing cardio because I'm in a cut. Otherwise I wouldn't be doing cardio. But anyways, I come home and I do have like half and half in my coffee with sweetener. And then I won't eat because I won't really be hungry. So I'll eat probably, I wake up at 4. I'll probably eat my first meal around 9, 10 o'clock. It'll be like maybe like eggs. I'll make egg bites and, or just bring eggs with me, or heck, sometimes I'll eat at lunch and have a bigger meal of, I usually do like a lean and a fatty together. You know what I mean? And then I might snack with, macadamia nuts or a meat stick. And then at night I'll have more meat. And like I said, I am animal based. So sometimes I'll have like, a side salad or veggies with it. And sometimes I won't, sometimes it'll just be meat, but I usually always pair a lean meat with a fatty meat. I just do that combo, so yeah, it's 2 meals a day usually with this way of eating.
So I think we have time for one more question before we spin our wheel. We have a meaty wheel. I don't know if the other ladies told you before the show or if they didn't have time, but we'll spin that in a minute. But I have one more question for you before we do that. So you talked about how you did carnivore because your coach suggested it, and then you've kind of transitioned a little bit more into animal-based because you realize that there are foods that you can tolerate that others can't. I'm trying to like quote you as best I can here. So let me know if I got that right. But how did you figure out what those foods are? Like, did you reintroduce them one at a time, the way I've heard some people do, to see what bothers them? Or was it just like intuition? Or how did you figure out what things bother you and what things don't?
Yeah, I am way too impatient to do one thing at a time. I attempted that one time after being in a group with Nisha Berry, love her, but I was like, I can't do one at a time. So it was too slow. I can't do that. So I introduced things that I instinctively knew was okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like I knew honestly that I would not have hardly any issues with fruit. Like, it just, you know what I mean? I don't even overeat fruit. It just doesn't do it for me. Like, I'm okay with a serving and I'm good. With the veggies though, that's where I had to be careful. A lot of sprouted veggies like broccoli and cauliflower and stuff like that. If I have it, it has to be super small amount. So I couldn't do that unless it was a very small amount. So things like that, Brussels sprouts, things like that, I knew I did not react to me. Dairy, I can handle dairy in very small amounts. Funny, I can do cheese better than I can do liquid dairy. Liquid dairy, I have to keep to a tablespoon or 2 and I'm good. But I can do like hard cheeses, and I'm okay. So, but yeah, it was just intuition mixed with, let me try this. So did I bloat up or whatever?
Yeah, no, that's fantastic that you were able to kind of dial in on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Adrian, I saw you unmute there. Did you have something to?
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, sure.
Can I sneak it in?
For it. Yeah.
Recently, a lot of people have been moving their goals from a weight goal to a body fat percentage goal. I know this is like an impossible question to answer, but like, what do you think is an optimal body fat percentage where you feel lean and fit?
Oh boy, it's so, I know you're going to hate this answer, but it is so dependent on the person. So I will go, because I'm going to be getting my in-body pretty soon, although I want to wait a little while because I'm afraid of the what it's going to be. But anyways, for me, 5'5", medium framed person. I feel the best when I'm like 18 to 20% body fat. Right now I'm like 23, 24, however, and that's using an in-body thing where you stand and you do all that stuff. It's not something that you have in your house. And again, these are not accurate, even the DEXA scan, whatever, but it's still a gauge. So I don't get caught up in the weeds, right? I just go by one metric and I track the progress of that, right? Yes. So now, but here's the thing, Adrian, at 18%, 19% body fat, according to the in-body scan, and I think Natalie Grosso uses that too, I believe, Keto Bikini. I could get down to like 15 and 16% if I wanted to be on stage as a competitor. But there are some people who look shredded and lean at 21 or 22% body fat. Or some don't really look their leanest until they're 14 or 15% on the in-body scale. That's the only one I'm going by. So you're going to have to figure out what you are at now, unless you already know. And when you are where you want to be, see, like, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? But it really, in that range, for the athletic on stage look, it's going to be like 13, 14, 15, 16%. Fit girl on the street, I am guessing it's going to be 17, 18, up to 21, 22%. And then regular, healthy, whatever, you're good at 25, 26. Like, you know what I mean? But it's dependent on the person. So I don't know.
That's so funny. I think you answered that really, really great. This is your opportunity to plug or share with our audience your upcoming projects, where we can find you on social media. Please share.
Yes, thank you so much. I love this. This was so much fun. So I'm at Pilar Fit Vegas on Instagram and on YouTube, and I'll be posting more on YouTube. I've been bad about that. And also I'm Pilar Fit LV on TikTok. So yes, there you go. And my YouTube channel is linked to my Instagram. So it's like a one-stop shop. And I am now coaching in Beyond the Bite with Carnivore Amy, and I'm excited to talk about fitness there as well. So, and that's on Mighty Networks, Beyond the Bite.
Okay, fantastic. I think we're going to go ahead and spin our wheel. We have one more question for you, but our wheel gets to pick what that is. Okay. So here we go. Sorry, I got to get this ready. I was busy putting that link in the chat there a second ago. All right, so here is our meaty wheel. I'm going to give it a spin and see what kind of question we can hunt down for you.
Okay.
Oh, that was a liner if I ever saw one. All right, so we hunted down this meaty question. Are there any resources or communities that have been particularly helpful for you?
Oh, wow. Okay, that is. You know what? Okay, so obviously the one I'm a part of now, Beyond the Bite and Mighty Networks, but I have to tell you, I'm going to give a plug to Lisa Wiedemann, Dr. Lisa Wiedemann's group. Her community is very helpful as well. And I know, Adrian, that's where I saw you and I was like, oh, fascinated with your story. But I think it's very good because she tackles the addiction part. Now, we, all of us handle the addiction differently, but I think she really sheds light on that as well. And I truly love people like, individual people like Kelly Hogan. She keeps it real. I love that. She's a person, but she has a community also. which I've been a part of before. So that, and then honestly, which is separate from this, I truly love the bodybuilding community. I don't compete now, but I'm still a part of it. I still go to shows and seminars and keep up on what's new with that. And so that's part of me that I will always have as well, and I enjoy.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Oh, I guess that's my turn, huh? Are
Your
we
turn,
ready?
Adrian. We are ready.
Did we tell you that we roar?
Oh, okay. No.
You didn't tell her anything. You didn't tell her anything. Surprise, we roar, Ayana.
We were just so excited to chit chat with her before the show. I don't think we told her anything about the show.
Oh my God, that is so funny. I love it. I love it.
My kids stole my lion, so I'm sorry that the lion isn't showing in here. Anyway, okay. At the end, we like to symbolically roar because we are powerful women who eat meat and are strong. And so if you guys would like to roar in the chat, please get your roars ready. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Roar!
Yay!
Wow, I'm impressed that you were able to roar out loud and in the chat, Cristie.
I got skills. Ayana knows teacher skills. We got them.
Yes.
Multitaskers.
I love all the roars. That's awesome.
I had to add mine.
Sometimes it's better to just not tell you so you don't have to worry about it.
Exactly, right? Oh my gosh, that is so awesome. I loved it. I love it.
All right, everyone. I would like to thank you so much for tuning in. If you are catching us on the replay, drop your roar below. We love to see those too. And give us a comment for the next week's Roar of the Week. But until then, we will see you next week when we will have another awesome guest for you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.